All right, thank you for staying with us. Now, many questions are still begging for answers since the news of the murder of Super TV CEO Usifo Ataga spread like wildfire. His alleged murderer, 21-year-old Chidinma Ojukwu, who is now in the custody of the police, insists she acted alone and in self-defense. This is despite the fact that the police says there are some accomplices on the run. The family of the deceased now want the police to carry out a thorough investigation to unravel all that transpired between Chidinma and Usifo Ataga that led to his death. Joining me now is Princess Folashade Gbolaoba. She is the Global President, Yoruba Council of Women Worldwide, and the founder, Shelter of Grace Foundation. Also in the studio is a cognitive behavior counselor, Wemimo Adebi. Good morning, ladies. Thank you for joining us on TC Breakfast. Right. Now, the issue I'd like for us to focus on are the issues that this case has raised. Talk about parenting, talk about the abuse of drugs, talk about so many issues, raising children, ensuring that they have a relationship with parents, and every other thing that surrounds this case, but not the case itself because it's still being investigated. So, but I will begin with you, Wemimo, because you made a post which caught my attention. And I want some level of clarity. This is kind of your field. You relate with teenagers and you know a lot of things.
Yeah.
And you said that parents should talk about campus aristos with their teenage girls. And I'm wondering, talk about it. In what ways? How? And is that in itself enough to addressing this kind of issue?
Well, thank you very much. I'll start by saying that when you talk about children, young teenagers who are entering into the tertiary institution, they enter in by intelligence, but they are not intelligent enough to know the realities in town, because we're having children, as it were, entering into the university or let's say tertiary institution at about, let's say 17, 18. And between the ages of 5 to that, bracket, I'm sure they must have been secluded away from the realities. So when they get into that environment, it's like freedom. And they want to explore everything and anything, time to, make friends, time to try hands on things that have been held back from. So when a parent knows that I'm going to set a goal for my child to get into the university or tertiary environment early, then the onus lies on the parent to teach the child early, as in present to them. You're not just in this environment to learn. There are other vices, and you're going to meet some other children like you who will tell you Aristo is a way of life, is an extracurricular activities that makes you feel like one of us. So it's a form of fortifying your child against the vices in town, because you are not going to be there. By the time the child is 16, 17, your involvement will become reduced, and it is whatever you put into that child within those ages that would now show up. But we discovered that a lot of children, especially girls, are not prepared. They are not prepared for it, so they dance to it and then go for it.
They feel it is a norm.
Yeah, it's a norm.
Because it seems the society has embraced it.
Exactly.
As a norm.
And they don't present it to them like it's something. They just call it as we're catching fun.
Right.
Yeah, it's fun, it's life, and that's how they roll into it.
But let's start from experience again, because as a mother of 6 boys, it came to me as a shock, and one a girl. I wonder how it was bringing them up despite this pressure, societal pressure, how you were able to manage it. Was it just speaking to them about these vices? Is that enough?
I think parenting to me is one of the most important, in fact, the greatest ministry. And if you raise your children to let them know that you have this unconditional love and the support from when they're little, the bond, it's something that will keep them over the years. I talk about the 3 stages.
Right.
When they're young, they're totally dependent on you. At some point, they're on their own, you're also on your own. And then later in life, you are going to be somehow totally dependent on them to some extent as well. So you must raise them, prepare them for the journey ahead. You know, let them know that life is life. There are choices and there are consequences to choices. And then when you also, the discipline is like, even God has the rules and things that you have to go by. And so, yes, mom can yell, mom can sometimes, you know, charge, but it is that mom loves you and wants the best from you. And if you, from that early stage, let them understand that everything you do, it's really because of them. It's all about them. It would be less chaotic, let me use that word, them growing up. And that trust, even when they now grow in the institutions and all that, they will be able to quickly get back and be like, Mom, can we talk, you know, as their trusted friend or whatever, and you let them, you know, through all the, I've been there, no, you don't have to do this, yes, you can do this, you know. But I guess these days there's a lot of pressure, the financials, you don't really spend much time being around them, you know. When mine were a lot younger, even going to work, I would have to put them in the car with me, use one hand baby feed, you know, drop them off, go, oh yeah, I just told you I did all the runs. Yeah, but
So you were really involved.
yes, you have to be. And also raising them to also look out for one another. Because yes, I go to work, their dad is at work, and then the homework sometimes, maybe the elderly ones helps the younger ones, you know. So it's really communal setting in the house, and everybody is interdependent. And so you are quickly to pick the lows. Maybe in school, somebody got bullied, maybe this, you know. Sometimes they might not tell you, they might tell their brother.
Right.
You know, and quickly I had that situation with my daughter, and I think it really saved the day, you know, where she was scared to go to school. Some guy was, you know, and it turned out that some story around it later. I'm glad I went to the boy's house and be like, please, that's the only daughter I have. Don't mess.
Very, very importantly. But there are some people who do not have, if I may use the word, luxury of having siblings.
Yes.
So they are basically dependent on their parents. Now, for instance, in this situation, we do not know if she has siblings, but we are told that her parents were separated before her dad died. And then she adopted the person she's staying with now as her father.
As a father, yes.
And the mother came out to say that I haven't seen her in 10 years.
Yeah.
So it shows perhaps something was wrong.
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically. But then is that enough to drive this kind of attitude in a young girl?
Yes, I'm going to say, you see, in our field, there's something we called adverse childhood experiences. And these are usually traumatic events. And when we talk about trauma, talking about trauma with a child, you know, there are 3 different stages of trauma.
Right.
The initial, which just happens without the knowledge of the child, and then the perpetual, and then which now, you know, moves into the major trauma that affects the individual psychologically. Now for her, you know, trauma usually happens in major, you know, adverse trauma could be neglect, you know, abuse, sexual abuse, or even separation, divorce. And if you check her history, she has been traumatized with time, growing up. And usually the adverse effect of this trauma is what we're seeing in her behavior. It's not about the fact that she went into smoking, she was drinking, she went into wildlife, or maybe she had all manners of stories behind it. The root cause of this is actually an adverse trauma, traumatic experiences she's had with time. And then when you look at her psychologically from afar, you would see that she's a withdrawn individual. She's actually quiet within herself. So she's locked up a lot in her life, in her mind, and she has decided to take hold of her life without getting the right help. Now, every individual would have to go through one traumatic experience or another. But if you do not expose yourself to being helped, then there's every likelihood the impact will be more psychological.
How about those who do not know they need help?
Yeah, there are all manners
at what point do you have to realize that I actually need help?
When we talk about trauma, it presents itself in different form. It could be physical,
right?
Okay, and it could be psychological. But the truth is, people do not pay attention to the psychological aspect, but it plays out behaviorally. Because that's when depression sets in. That's when self-worth, the person would not have a hold of worth on him or herself and think, I need to depend on something. I need to depend on a way of life. I need to come up with something to show I am worth someone, just to cover up the cloudy experience that she or he may have had in life. So that's what we're saying, that there are all manners of behavioral ways to identify this. You see people, drugs. It's a way to cover up.
Really?
Yeah, when they go into Aristo, it's a way to cover up. And when they eventually get into having to take another person's life, it didn't start with that person. It started from a childhood experience.
There's a lot.
A lot.
A lot to swallow. And with all of this that she has mentioned, how can we begin to perhaps rethink parenting with all of the pressures that we have seen, with all of the trauma? Some parents may not even know that their children are even being traumatized by certain things going on in the home. So how can parents begin to ensure they build trust with their children and not fear? Because growing up for some of us, it was more of fear. And then in the process, we were able to develop trust because we began to see life as it is. So that kind of guided us to an extent.
Well, the topic actually just really grieves my heart. But no excuses, honestly. I grew up, my father also, very, very tough, okay? So the fear you're talking about, it's like after God. My father was the next God.
You must always fall in line.
Yes, always. But over the years, I thank God for my father, because that fear, the discipline and all that he helped instill in me is still what I got to today. That, yes, I was a girl, little girl growing up, he wanted a boy. He raised me as a boy, prepared me for the hard road ahead. And so, yes, initially was meant to be negative, but it turned around to be positive for me, because whatever it is today, my father was harder than that. Yes. And he's like, you will survive. My good name, whatever it is, you must hold up, you must hold forward. And so that's what I'm talking about, consequences. The choices. Yes, I went through the schools, and there were also always children that maybe their fathers or their mothers were more privileged, but there was no attraction that will make me derail, because I know I will get it when I get back to the house. Oh yes. And sometimes my mom had that check thing, look into my eyes, you can't lie. And even if other people were there, I'd be like, Mom, okay, tell them to go out, we can talk. And I can never lie to my mother. And she'd be like, yeah, that's it. No matter how bad it is, you must trust me enough that I've got your back. And no matter how it is, we will fix it. Nothing that is not. So I am a very positive person. No situation is not redeemable.
Right.
Yeah.
And you must let them understand that that it is not about where you are coming from, it's about where you're going to. And as long as you believe in that you, being a better you every day, trust me, I'm here to help you. I have no other job as a parent. This is my primary job. So help me help you. So most children these days, you know, don't have that trust. You know, the breakdown. I was talking about us missing it, the value system. Yes. You know, we drop the balls along the line. I don't know how. Maybe the exposure to so much civilization and internet and all that, whatever. But those things are meant to be our greatest assets to rule our world. It should not be the other way around. Yes.
And that brings me to the other issue of helping teenagers manage peer pressure.
Yeah. Because
we see it everywhere. They see their colleagues also, you know, using different gadgets that it seems, okay, I'm not privileged to use. Okay, show me the way now. So hot soap for me and all of those things that we keep hearing. We see young people engage in the use or abuse of drugs. And you see persons or their colleagues, their friends filming them to see reaction. And I wonder how that brings joy to you, seeing your fellow person manifesting in different kind of way because of an abuse of drug. In fact, recently a guy fell off a story building because he abused drugs and he died. So let's look at how we can help our children manage this pressure.
Okay, I like to say that a lot of parents have failed their children. You know, they've not been available, they've not been accessible, and they have allowed the situation, you know, the economic situation to take a hold on their attention. Now, when we talk about peer pressure, there is a certain age that a child, you know, falls under the intense of peer pressure, and that's the teenage age, which starts between the ages of 9. A lot of people think it's from 13. No,
oh, really?
It's no longer about the number. It starts from 9. Because one of the things I tell parents is from 9, you know, your puberty has set in. There is a consciousness of self and consciousness of the environment. So don't wait till your child is 13. At 13, you are just going to be doing fire brigade. So from 9, start getting deliberately involved with the true identity of that child. This is who you are. You are not them. All right? Then you have to affirm the child too. Because a child who is not affirmed, who is not loved, will think others who have it are having the love somewhere else. So let me follow and navigate through to get the love they are getting. Now, when it comes to peer pressure and children, it's both ways, male and female.
Right.
But because of the gender, that one is more intense than the other. So I say that, but today, drug is a general pressure. You know, the fantasy of living like every other child is a general pressure. So one of the things you do for your child is bring it on the table. These are the things that are happening. So parents, you need to be informed. Don't be out of the sphere of what is happening in the age bracket of your child. Whether as a child, you know, preteen, or, you know, young adult. Get to know what is happening. In fact, get to know the slangs. Learn some of their ways and present it friendly, you know, in a friendly manner. And then also, when it comes to peer pressure, you know, I mentioned identity. It's a loss of identity for a child who, you know, a child with a zero identity will think, like I said, I can get it elsewhere, gadget and everything. Then don't hide the truth from them. Let them know that, okay, if you give in to these are the likely results. If it's drug, these are the likely results. If it is sex, these are the likely results. And parents need to come to terms with the reality that there are some things that are happening in your body's in your child's body, the hormones, which would make them want to go for it. They want to go for it. So it is not time
having that conversation. I wonder why.
Because they are not knowledgeable about it. It is not time for you to fight that child. It is the time for you to get knowledge and then train, teach, coach, mentor, influence the hormone of that child within that period. Make that child understand that the reason you feel this pressure intensely is because of what is happening in you, not what is happening outside of you. Why? Because we have children of your age who have parents who are deliberate about raising them, and they are not under this type of pressure. So it's about what is inside. Let's deal with you, okay? Then it will be easier for you to combat what's outside, basically.
That's a lot. That's a lot. So now with the recent developments that we are seeing, where does this leave the family setting? Because a family is supposed to be that aspect of society that determines a lot. It helps you build your child to become whole. But then we are seeing so much happening in the society, and we are wondering, family values are getting lost. That system is seemingly disappearing, and one is wondering, where are we actually headed?
Scary thoughts. Yeah, but I think the awakening is part of why we're here.
Right.
And so the knowledge every day is what a lot of us need to get back out there. Sensitizing, teaching them, letting them know. I mean, my father back in the days would actually put us in the car and drive us around to the bad spots and the good spots and tell you, take your choices. If you do good, if you do this, this is where you end up. If you do this, this is where you end up. And obviously, we love the pretty environment of VI, Koi, and all the, you know, and the songs. So it's about still consequences. But also for some of us that don't have that norm, which is the father, the mother at home and all that, is still saying, okay, it doesn't matter. You can adopt. We used to write love letters to our seniors in school. Please be my school mother, be my school father.
I don't think that is still in existence.
Honestly, but you know what? It did the work. It did the magic back in the days. Because then the seniors used to punish you if you had a good school mother.
She fights for you.
Yeah, she fights for you, defend you. And really, it extends a real life. So in the neighborhood where you are, if you don't have a mother in the house or a father, you can choose a role model who is like a mentor, you know, who you see that maybe there's some things you admire. Take the good, delete the bad. But all in all, adapt something to making sure that, you know what, no matter where I'm coming from, I want to be the best citizen of this great country.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have quickly any final words? Very quickly, because we're run out of time.
I say that parents need to wake up, okay? And then put the challenge on you first.
Right.
Because what you don't have, you cannot give.
Absolutely. And that's a fine place to live it. Thank you so much, Princess Folashade Gbolaoba, Global President, Yoruba Council of Women Worldwide, and founder, Shelter of Grace Foundation, as well as Cognitive Behavior Counselor, Wemimo Adebi. Thank you so much for coming. Well, let's tell you.